All right, Tara, I have to call you out of this. What is this? You have a thing. It's pointing this way. Suddenly, it's pointing that way, and then where does it go? It's pointing that way. I don't know. It's like what this arc is crazy, man. It's crazy. Let's clean that up. So if you were to clean that up, though, that's good. It's like where would you go? That's a good question. So I would probably, I do actually like what you did here. Like I see what you're going for. I think you're going for an arc that looks like this, right? And pointing away from camera slightly, of course, but like it seems to me like you're going for an arc that looks like that. And I think that's good. I think that's a good idea, but you just need to smooth it out a bit more. So like for these frames, you would actually probably start the arc already. Prepare the arc. Prepare it, Taro, prepare it. That's not bad where it is. I think that's fine. And then for here, I would keep the silhouette visible at all times, and this will help a lot with getting this arc to read. And at some point, once the arc is like, you know, here, like I can understand this would work, but you could get an even better silhouette like that. Just make the sword wider. You know, don't let us see the thin blade of the sword unless you absolutely want us to. Hey, want to be reviewed? Just send your animations in the Professor Goo review channel in the Discord. Each stream I'll be going over one animation, which will be randomly selected from that channel. If you happen to be in stream that day, we'll go over it, and maybe even jump into a call. If you want to watch these streams live, go to twitch.tv/DylanGoo. Taro! All right, Taro. This is Taro's video. We're gonna watch it. I haven't seen this yet because he submitted it like 10 minutes ago. So today we're going to be going over these 30 seconds, which is the first 30 seconds of Taro's animation. And it's a pretty cool mech fight. Honestly, I think this is well, as far as mech fights go, there's a lot of really creative things going on with like the fact that you're fighting with mechs and not humans. That's something that I think does get overlooked a lot sometimes, where it's like, oh, you just have like a normal human fight, but they're robots. And it's like, yeah, you know, you could be more creative. And so I want to compliment Taro on that. I think the creativity here is good. And I also think the animation is good. So let's talk about the animation a little bit. Let's watch it through again, just the 30 seconds that we're going to be reviewing. And then we're going to go over exactly some drawovers and stuff of what I think we could improve. All right, here we go. So we start off with the sword swing, which is cool. It feels very grounded. We got a good center of mass there. We have that underslide, which is crazy. And then we have the guy's leg gets chopped off. That's crazy. And then we have these guns. That's good. The lasers are pretty sweet. The flip is pretty sweet. And we have that, which was really cool. So that was a double spin move, which I want to talk about. That's a pretty creative choreography choice. And then, yeah, we end with this dude dying, just straight up dying. A lot of people dying today. All right. So let's go over some things. First of all, this first swing, pretty cool. Now, this is important to note. We have this guy dual wielding. All right. So he's actually shooting the guy here. This is something that I would say could be more clear. We don't quite have enough attention being paid to the gun. The thing is, there's a lot of attention being called here. And this is sort of a camera thing, but also a pose thing. There's a lot of attention being called here to the sword. And so we get a lot of focus on here. I actually didn't know there was a gun until basically 5 seconds ago. And I think if you wanted to, as a director, call more attention to that, I would do this pose here, which is something pretty much exactly what you had before. But you have this guy getting ready to, you know, fire already. But if you had this kind of angle where you sort of like emphasized, this is his hand here, you sort of emphasized like his the gun in camera space, you get this really cool anime look, right? This could be a really cool angle to emphasize the gun for a few frames first, and then he pulls it up, right? So that's a small tip I would give, just because I think it's basically free. You know, it's the same number of frames that you want, but now you have both the gun and the sword, and that's a really cool shot. I think once you get both of those in there, now you have both the double threat properly emphasized. Yeah, big foreshortened gun. Exactly. So that's one idea. And then I think, yes. Is that mesh trails? Yes, Taro says it is mesh trails. Thank you. Yeah, mesh trails is looking good here. I like it. This is a really nice swing. This sword swing is honestly beautiful. I really want to compliment you on this pose here. Great slash here as well. I would say that this particular pose could be a little bit better, but of course he's a robot, so it's kind of fine. But right here, I would actually recommend a more of a rotation, and this would actually give just some more follow through. So like you could right now that this guy, he's kind of not rotating, right? Like if you were to draw a cube here, the cube. He's rotating from here, yes, but once he gets here, he just sort of stops. And I don't think he can stop. I don't think he should stop. I think he should keep going. So what I would recommend actually is that he rotates even further to the point. Oh, I'm on the same frame. To the point where he would actually basically be facing away from you. Yeah. So he'd basically be facing away from you. I have that thing again where I didn't draw the ear. I'm going to draw the ear real quick. Hang on. So the happy cube, I think he could be rotated more. So you see here, if he was here and you have this left-handed slash, if he was rotated more this way, you could get a cool silhouette where the sword actually comes out, you know, here. And like you have like this, and then like the actual sword sort of ends up going up here, right? And then you can have a really cool, you could probably have a decently cool pose here with the right hand as well. I don't know if that goes that too far, but now you have this really twisted pose, which is good for a follow through for a really powerful attack, right? So I think this attack is pretty cool. It feels significant and it feels dangerous, and we want that to read a bit more. So you just have him follow through a bit more. You see that? That pose feels a little stronger, and you can keep you can bring it back in the same, you know, in the same way that you have now. So he goes to the next thing. But it would also make this slash even stronger, because what you could do is, because the sword is all the way over here, comma here, you would have this pose would actually include that you know, it would transition from that follow through in a way where the sword is actually being bent over his body just a little bit. And I'm not sure how your rigs work, so maybe this is just difficult for a pose to achieve. But I think like right here, this pose would be just slightly stronger, and you would have something that would, you know, it would land pretty well here, just in the same way that you have here, which is also really good, by the way. But yeah, so that would give you a potentially cleaner arc. And you can see here also, it's like between this pose and this pose, like if you didn't rotate him as much here, you could get away with it. In that like happy face cube is actually rotated a bit more this way, instead of facing this way, he's facing more like this way. You know what I mean? Imagine these are coming towards camera. But yeah, like I think that is something that could help a little bit, in which case you could have probably kind of a similar silhouette, but because it would go over his face from the previous pose, you would actually get an arc that looks like this. And this right here, this sword pose right here, just winds up this slash just that much better. Just that much better. It's only an angle difference of about 10 degrees, right? That looks like 100. About 10 degrees, but I think it helps a lot. Maybe that's like 20, I don't know. But that right there, then suddenly your arc is this big, you know, instead. Yeah. So that could read just slightly better. And it's again, these are small improvements. It's already really good, but hopefully that makes sense. I would recommend that as well. Let's see. Boom, boom. Yeah, that feels great. This dodge feels really, really cool. Oh man, I just realized this guy is using his boosters to not touch the ground. Bruh. That's big brain. That is big brain. I love that. So with that in mind, actually, I'm kind of curious. What can we do to emphasize that just slightly more? Because I didn't notice that until now. I kind of wish that I had. And so it's like, how do we make that more obvious to the viewer, right? Because this is a really, really cool choreography moment that gets lost a bit from the directing. It's like it's not made super clear. And that's one thing that I personally like to prioritize, is like clarity over everything. So like if we do want to have these cool ideas, let's make sure that the audience really understands them and feels like that they're like appreciates them, I should say. So let's say right here, how do we get this to read a bit better that he's actually, you know, clearly boosting himself away from the ground? I think one thing is probably the leg pose, actually. Now, obviously, yeah, the easiest thing would be, of course, to have smoke, and I think we're just gonna take that for granted. It's like, yeah, obviously, if he had smoke, that would be good, but I wouldn't rely just on that. I think the pose could be altered a little bit as well. So what I would recommend probably is just a small tweak on the pose, where if we can just put more of his weight on it, like that. So now, because with his leg here, it becomes a little unclear where his center of mass is because of this not really, if you don't know like necessarily if he's touching the ground or not, and at first glance. So like to make it more obvious that he is definitely not using his feet at all and there's no ground contact at all, then you want to lift the foot up, I think, so that it's more balanced onto this center of mass, right? So this is his center of mass. And so by lifting his feet a little bit, you kind of get this, it's a little bit of a fetal position. You can make it, you know, look a little cooler, but like you can do that by having a cool get up pose, for example. Yeah. Like this. That could be a cool get up pose, depending on how much time you have. But yeah. That could be really cool. So now it feels like he's just a bit more balanced on top of that booster, that thruster. And that could give just a bit more emphasis to this really, really cool move to make it more obvious. Now, of course, I would also do the booster smoke because that would help a lot. But yeah, that would be really, really cool. And the other leg, you can make it a bit more neutral. Like you could have the other leg be like, you know, something like this. Or what have you, right? So it's a bit more actiony. So it's not too much like fetally, right? And then you have his other leg land a bit sooner, for example. There we go. So that's what I would recommend. It's a small thing. But yeah, that's really, really cool. And here we have another twisty thing. I just realized. So he's got this orange guy just loves going upside down and backwards. So he's looking forward here, and then he swings, and then he looks backwards to prepare for another block. That's a really cool thing that you can only do with mechs. So let's talk about that. What could we do to improve that? I don't think there's a whole lot that we have to do, but I did notice there's this weird arc here. Taro, what is this? What is this? Silhouette, my friend, silhouette. So this is just a small thing. I think like because the sword is going towards camera, it doesn't read as well. This is a small thing, and I think like right here, it goes like. All right, Tara, I have to call you out of this. What is this? You have a thing. It's pointing this way. Suddenly, it's pointing that way, and then where does it go? It's pointing that way. I don't know. It's like what this arc is crazy, man. It's crazy. Let's clean that up. So if you were to clean that up though, that's a good. It's like where would you go? That's a good question. So I do actually like what you did here. Like I see what you're going for. I think you're going for an arc that looks like this, right? And pointing away from camera slightly, of course, but like it seems to me like you're going for an arc that looks like that, and I think that's good. I think that's a good idea, but you just need to smooth it out a bit more. So like for these frames, you would actually probably start the arc already, prepare the arc, prepare it, Taro, prepare it. That's not bad where it is. I think that's fine. And then for here, I would keep the silhouette visible at all times. And this will help a lot with getting this arc to read. And at some point, once the arc is like, you know, here, like I can understand this would work, but you could get an even better silhouette like that. Just make the sword wider, you know? Don't let us see the thin blade of the sword unless you absolutely want us to. So that is how I would do that particular arc. It's a small thing. Oh yeah, the fight looks great. These are small nitpicks, but yeah, this is something that will help a lot. So once you get that arc cleaned up, this will just feel really, really good. I mean, I actually really like this move. Like and that's the thing is like I didn't actually notice. This is another thing that helps with clarity. I didn't actually notice originally that this guy turned 180 on his body, but like on his torso. But if you actually get this arc cleaned up, you might be able to emphasize that a bit more. So you can see how much more anticipation this has with like just even this frame, having it so much higher up, it has this sort of downwards hammering almost motion that feels really, really strong. So I like that a lot. So yeah, then we have this really cool moment where, oh man, so he's about to shoot him point blank, and this other dude's like, no, I got a gun too, and I'm gonna shoot your gun with my gun. Beautiful. Oh, is this guy also rotated? Hang on, let me. Ah, yeah. I see. So this guy's also rotated. I will probably suggest a slightly different pose for this guy actually. And we've already kind of done that earlier. Talking about the green guy, by the way. I would say that this would be a slightly better pose, a sideways rather than backwards pose, so he can get just a bit more traction with his swing. Because this right here would read really well with what you have here as like sort of a downwards motion. Yeah. So then he would have something like this, which is be the same. It's the same silhouette pretty much. It's just slightly different foot placement. Everything else would read really well as you have it, but just a slightly different pose there would be good. To keep that more balanced, and that'll give him more power behind his swing. Yeah. Just like that. Beautiful. Love this arc though. His arc is great. I do think his arc could actually be a little better at the beginning. This arc, this silhouette, fantastic. Really, really good. So that's really, really good. Also mesh trails. But bonus points for mesh trails. But like right here, we have something that I think if we wanted to improve this arc, I would probably bring it, I would probably not rotate his body quite as soon. So like if Happy Cube, if we draw Happy Cube real quick, it'd probably be something closer to this. So this is just his ear. So Happy Cube would actually be probably closer to something like this for a bit. And then we could actually get his hand to go up here. Oh wait, sorry, I'm a little late on that. Hang on. Let me bring this over. This is why I have this open. Dope sheet. Where are we at? Oh yeah, well whatever. Basically, I would say that Happy Cube should probably have just a hand position that is a bit more like here. Wait, hang on. A bit more lower, actually. Yeah. There we go. That way this will read even better. See that? Just a couple of frames before the arc, so that when you see the sword, it doesn't go backwards. So like these frames here, the sword is going against the arc you want to emphasize for a couple frames, and then it goes that way. But what if it just like came out here, right? Like what if it just like started out, even if you wanted to start it sooner, like here, you could do that. And what if it just started here and then just maintained the same direction, right? It would actually feel a lot better already. But I would say because it comes out so early, it's kind of the reason why you have to do that. I would actually not have it come out early. So I would personally recommend just having this guy come out a bit later. And then it would read better. Yeah. Just a bit. It's something that I do agree that having a sword out earlier helps it read a bit better because you get some time to register that there's a sword there. But if anything, I would just give it a couple frames more delay. Like maybe here would be fine. So just a couple more frames delay. Anyway, that's a small thing. So that'll help that arc read, and then that other arc will read really well here as well. Bam. That feels great. So with a slight pose adjustment there, where would that bring us here? It would bring us in a nice spot where he could actually rotate like this. Now, I know this might be a little different for the choreo that comes afterwards, but I think it's something to consider. Now that he is sideways, he has the luxury of facing the same direction, but with a stronger leg pose. Right here. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So that would actually feel pretty strong. It'd be like he's got this really strong stance if he does that. So that would be one advantage of having his legs actually in a slightly different pose. Cool. Let's see here. I love this choreo though. I think that shot is really, really cool. Yeah, I think that works pretty well. This is a great silhouette too. So this guy gets his leg cut off, which is then the question of like, does that still work with the new leg poses, right? If his legs were here and here instead, it would read very differently with this choreo. But you could cut his other leg. You could easily cut his other leg off. It would be fine. So that's up to you. But you wouldn't get this pose, to be fair. So this is a really cool pose. I do like that. So it just depends on what you want to do. I do think that balancing that pose has a lot of advantages, and it just depends on if you think it's worth it or not. You may have to change this pose slightly. But that's great. Love that twist. That pose is great. And then this guy gets hit. Oh no. I do want to say pretty decent hit animation. So like hit animations are actually pretty interesting. They're a little hard to get right. So I'd say good job on this one. So this is just like a rebalancing. I do wonder if the second step is necessary. This is a common thing that happens with hit animations. Maybe the rebalancing is a little overemphasized. I do this a lot too. It just depends on what the animation looks like. But I do think sometimes it's kind of fine just to let this. It's kind of fine just to let this foot stay there a little bit. But the main thing is like if you do want to, and I can understand the need to want to move that foot a little bit. The one thing you want to keep in mind is again center of mass. So the only thing I would say about this actually pretty good hit animation, which is well balanced, is this last step. His center of balance isn't shifting properly to allow for it. So like if you wanted to lift a foot, you would have to be like over here, his torso, and like that would be the only way you could feasibly do it. Otherwise, you would just topple over as soon as you lift your foot up. So like that's one small thing that I would say. It's a very small thing. Here we go. Yeah. And like if you don't think you have time to do an entire torso weight shift change, then you also probably don't have time to do a foot lift. And that's been like generally my rule of thumb for when I try to learn these things and like figure out like if I need to do like a weight shift adjustment, because yeah, and then you can shift back onto the leg once it's actually rooted to the ground. But yeah, that's a small thing. It's something that I've seen a lot with these hit animations, which again are pretty difficult to get right because they're basically like full on center of mass balancing challenges because you have this external force that you have to recalibrate with everything else. So it's difficult to do. But the rest of it feels really, really good. So that initial balance, this is really, really good. That feels great. Boom, bam, rebalancing with the other foot. Yeah, but then like the second foot, I would just be careful with. It can be tempting to sort of add a bit of motion, but like just be wary of like what the requirements are for that kind of small thing. All right, so this is the gun. This is the range. This is sort of like the ranged choreography bit of it. First of all, this is pretty cool. I like these sort of non-orthodox screen cuts. I've personally never really done cuts like this before, to be honest. But I've seen them done really well, and I would say this is a good example of that. I think it looks pretty cool. It's a really, really strong line of action, and you're supporting it pretty well with these guns. So that's pretty nice. I do like that. All right, let's see here. This is a personal preference. This is entirely a personal preference. But what if the laser was here? Just what if? Right? Instead of here, right? I think that would feel just about maybe 30% stronger. Because you, the camera, are now sort of traveling along that path. And I think it would feel really, really strong. Once it hits, especially. That's a small thing. Yeah. And then let's see. This is cool. So this like flip through the lasers, really, really cool. What I would say is I actually really like this, and I did notice this the first time, but I do think if you want to emphasize this a bit more, how would we do this? This is such a cool shot. I love the shot. So if you wanted to emphasize this just a bit more, I would probably kind of do the same thing. What if the laser was here? That's a bit of an exaggeration, but like what if the laser was here? And this is like all one laser, right? See, well, notice the foreshortening here, where it's like it just feels that much closer to the audience. See that? This would feel really dangerous to the audience. And what you want is for the audience to feel like they're in danger so they can sympathize, empathize with this character who's also in grave danger. So that's something I do recommend for these cameras. Like you can have a lot more impact when you have this kind of foreshortening there. I mean, just look how much better this reads. Like you just like, boom, yeah. So that would be really good. And this is, by the way, not changing the size of the lasers. This is changing the angle of the lasers, just how close they are to camera. So this is the same thickness. I don't imagine it being thicker. I just imagine it being foreshortened with the camera. So it's like if you just took this laser and like moved it towards camera. So yeah, I would recommend that. And this is a small thing. I think it's mostly just a placement thing. But once you get that down, boom, passes by. Feels like it just barely scraped your head. Maybe you got a haircut on accident, you know, because the lasers grazed it. It'll feel great. This flip, fantastic. God, I love this flip. This flip is great. Really, really good landing. So this is great because like, you see this landing pose? You see this landing pose? This does not feel like it would work normally, right? Like you'd be like, as an animator, you'd be like, well, how does that feel balanced? Well, it does. And you know why? Because it's got momentum. The M word, momentum. So the center of mass is actually here. Isn't that crazy? Tell me that's not crazy. The center of mass is here because of momentum. So that's an interesting thing, because if this was a stationary pose, the center of mass would be here, right? And he would like, if he doesn't have an anchor point there, he would topple over, right? Because the anchor point is here. But now, because he has momentum, the anchor point and the center of mass line up. It's crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, that's a really, really cool pose. I like it a lot. But I thought it was a good demonstration of that. Let's see. Woohoo. Sniper rifle. Let's see here. Okay, interesting. So this is him getting shot. I'm actually not super clear on this, but it looks like he got shot. But I'm not sure where from, because there's a laser here. And that doesn't line up with where the bullet came from, does it? And this is where I'm a little confused on how much the camera moves. But I think it might be. Oh, I see. It's actually it's a spear shape. Okay, it's coming from here. Yeah, okay. Got it. So this is something where I actually would recommend a cut. I think a cut would just be easier, because it's really, really difficult to actually register this, I think. If you did have a cut, let's see, what would we do? Let's just pretend we don't have a cut and see what we can do. What would I do if I couldn't use a cut? God, that's tough, to be honest. Oh yeah, Proxy, I started a bit earlier from yesterday. Yeah, I mean, start from Friday, but this is the time that I probably will be starting more often. 9 a.m. CST. But we're gonna just test out what routine works best. But yeah, if this was Oh, okay, I got it. So what I would probably do is I would not actually show the shot here. I think that's the confusing part. It's like right here from a timing perspective, I found it, Taro. And this is a really hard shot to get right. So this is like, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that this is a little hard to read, but I would actually not shoot it. So like this, I would hang on me. This, I would just not shoot. No shooting. No shooty shoots. And I would actually, I'll probably stick to the ground a bit closer for this. Just a bit closer. You know, it's a small thing, but like, you know, a little bit more of like a closer ground composition could be good. As you get some action lines there, and then once you get to this point, instead of here, I have a suggestion, and this is hopefully a good suggestion. But instead of here, I would actually like, this is all good. This is fine. I would actually suggest, might I suggest, something that looks a bit like this, right? So this is like me trying to draw your exact framing and pose, but I have a slight change, which is of course that he would be framed a little bit to the right, and then I would actually have maybe you guys can guess. Anyone in chat can guess what I'm about to do. Come on, chat, we're learning. We're learning. Let's see. Do this. All right. So like this is a cool pose. I think like, because like you might be worried about like this guy getting some attention, I think we can have that attention still there during the zoom in. But because we're not focusing on that right now, we shouldn't be too focused on that. But like let's just pretend there's like a fight there. That's fine. So what I would say is I would actually, let me just bring the this a little bit darker. Yeah. So what I would actually say is I would draw a dude here. See what I'm saying? So this is the guy with the gun. Foreshortened a bit properly. But anyway, he'll be here. You know, aiming the gun. And then you show the shot right here. So this would read really well because when he shoots from this, like, you know, from this angle, it's very, very obvious where the shot comes from. Yeah, and that could be good. And you could also do like a zoom in here, like if you wanted to like show his face before the shooting, and then like, but that would require a cut. So it's like, it's up to you how you want to do the style. But this is like a version that if you had to keep it as one take, I would probably do that. Because you set up that he's aiming, and then you set up like the actual shot here, which will read pretty well in my opinion. Let me just delete this keyframe. Hang on. There we go. Boom. Right. And then you have the same sort of thing here, where he actually gets shot. But like he's over here now, basically. Right. That's him. It's the same guy. Anyway. Cool. So then after that, I think, after he gets hit, we just go to the next fight, which is good. And I think like once you have him in the background here, which is really good. So that's good. But like once he gets hit and he does all this thing that you already have, like that's all good. We can shift focus back onto the fight at hand, and nothing would change there. I don't think it would be the same, because at the moment it's sort of like the same anyway, right? So he's like addressing this guy now and shifting focus to this guy. And from there, yeah, let's talk about the rest of this. So I think this next fight does actually have just a little bit, a tad bit more messiness in the poses. I want to talk about it. It's just around here. Let me show you guys. I feel like this guy's knees are staying a bit too bent, and maybe that's just how the character is, but I do feel like when he's walking forward, like right here, he could be a bit taller, because he's not raising his center of mass when he should be, just a little bit to raise this foot a bit more naturally. So I'd recommend that. It's a small thing. And then so when he takes a step and everything like that, like he can come back into this pose. But yeah, it would feel just slightly better if he was like lifting up his weight just a bit. Yeah, like that. And then I think this guy on the right, he's got this pose here, which I would actually recommend to be slightly different as well. This one here. So this pose, I think, is actually something that I've seen a lot in other people's animations as well. It's a pretty common thing. I think it's not wrong per se, but it feels unnatural, which is that these 2 feet kind of sync up. Like you basically have this for when you like land backwards. I personally don't really recommend this because very few people naturally sync up their feet when they're landing backwards. Like usually they have a dominant foot, and then their other foot sort of follows. So like what I would recommend is like this pose is pretty good. This one, probably something closer to that. Usually. Let me actually draw that in green real quick. Boop, 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 boop. Draw it in green. So yeah, I would recommend something closer to this. And then what you would actually get is a pose that's more similar to this, which feels better. It feels a bit more natural. It feels like it has a better silhouette. Yeah, just like that. And then that would just feel nicer, just a little bit nicer. So it's a small thing. So yeah, the rest of that's good. And then let's talk about this guy again. This guy's got a kick. Let's talk about this kick. Kicks are difficult. Kicks are really difficult to get right for center of mass stuff. So let's talk about it real quick because this guy does an interesting kick. First of all, he does a sword slash. Okay, so he's left-handed, first of all. So that's gonna be tough. But when you do a left-handed sword slash, I'll have to think about this from a right-handed perspective. And then in that spin, do a then basically a, is this a roundhouse? No, I think this is like a crescent kick or whatever it's called. I think what I would say is like most kicks, the way they work in humans is a little bit different than what they're doing for mechs, so it's a little hard to judge. But generally speaking, if you want it to look like a human kick, let me just draw it real quick. You're just missing the lean. So like this kick right here. Let's talk about center of mass again. This kick right here. Right now, your entire torso is basically right here. It's basically straight. I mean, it might be leaning a little bit like that way, but it's basically straight. A real human sort of doing the same kind of kick. Also, your arms, I think, are here and here, technically. Yeah. Basically somewhere around there. But a real human would actually kick a bit more like this. If you were to have this leg here, and then this, oh, where is it? This leg's here. The leg positions are pretty good. I do like your leg poses. That's pretty good. But how would you, class, how would you get this anchor point to be balanced with a center of mass, right? How would you do it? How would you do it, class? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? We got a lean back from Zamita. Okay, a lean back, right? Yes, we've already sort of mentioned that. We teased it a little bit. But what else would you do? Right? We have the lean back. Okay, that's good. How much would you lean back exactly? Right? Because you have this much here. How much do you need here? Probably about the entire torso. Probably about the entire torso, right? Yes. Pretty much yeah, this we have to lower the upper body to be around here. Angel Diaz, thanks for the Patreon. Thank you. All right, so we have that. And then where would you put the hands? Right? Would you put the hands like would they be here? Right? Whoa, hang on. We're unbalanced again. Right? That's not good. We're unbalanced again. So where would we put these hands exactly? Where would you guys put these hands? One up, one down. Upper one follows leg. Okay. Fair enough. Right arm forwards, upwards a bit. Okay. T-pose. Beautiful. Beautiful. You know, surprisingly, this would kind of work. You're not wrong, right? Like technically. Clue says close to the chest. Yes, those are good options. Yeah. Okay, let's show you guys how close you are. You're not far off. You're not far off. The person who said one arm forward, that definitely helps. And then the other one, probably somewhere around here, right? Probably somewhere around here. Just to not make sure it's not too far away, right? Close to the chest is good, and then you're pushing that mass sort of like towards the right, which is good. Like you're keeping it close to the center. And yeah, when you have that, okay. First of all, this guy's legs are way too short, so we're just gonna adjust that because yeah, his torso is way too long. But regardless, once you have that, you have a much more balanced character. So that would help a lot. And this is something that I think like you can play around with. I would actually shorten his torso a bit more to make it more balanced, but you get the idea. So this is closer to like a more accurate kick. So what we look at here is we have a non-human character, right? A mech character technically here, who is trying to do a similar kick. So this is where it gets a little tricky because we have a lot of different weight distributions. And I think like if you were to have like a more human shape here, like a more human pose here, then what we would look at is probably something that's like, let me just redraw this again on the next frame so we have a reference. What we would see is probably something that looks a bit like this, right? Like we just drew. Be kind of like this. He'd have like, you know, at least one arm here. It doesn't have to be straight, by the way. It can still be bent. And then this one could still be here. Although, interestingly enough, is he supporting himself? He's not. Okay, cool. Just wanted to see if he is. Because if he is supporting himself, that would be actually a really good solution to how the mech would balance itself. That's a really cool idea. But anyway, so there's that. But I would say like this. Hang on. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. If you were to do the human one, oh no, I got ahead of myself. If you were to do the human one, it would be something like this, right? Where the sword would actually end up poking out this way. It'd be closer to that. And like that kind of works, to be fair. That's not bad, especially because the sword is so heavy, you're putting a lot more mass on the other side. Let me just bring this note out of here. There we go. But yeah, so like that's not bad. But I would actually, you know, suggest that what I just suggested earlier, and this is kind of a spoiler, but what if the mech was actually supporting itself? Because it is too top heavy, right? And so now you can actually do a pretty cool move where it stabs into the ground to do a kick that would otherwise be impossible for its physique. So that's a pretty cool understanding of physics. That feel pretty good, in my opinion. I would also recommend just raising up this leg a bit more, because having a bent leg during a rotation is pretty painful for a human. So it's just a little nicer if this leg was like not as bent, right? So it would just be a little bit higher. So it's like more, you know, whatever. But yeah, so those are some ideas. I think it's also a pretty cool silhouette to do this. So I prefer this particular pose. So that's an idea to try for this this movement. And then this is a great arc. This is a really good arc. So right here, boom. Love mesh trails. Love it. We love it. And then this is a double. It's a double arc. A double arc. Taro, this is really cool. I really like this double arc. I think generally speaking, when people are more creative with mech fights, this is like one of them. I also really like the thruster boost thing you did earlier. So these are cool ideas. And so what I would do to emphasize this arc, once again, is delay it, right? Delay it. So actually start the arc here, probably. That would just feel so much better, right? Boom. Look how big that arc is in comparison, right? And then you do this, which feels good. So that could be a stronger arc. Yeah, and like here I'll probably like put the sword like further back just a bit to like, yeah, especially if you use it as a root, bam, flows into that arc really well. And then here, this is an interesting thing because we have one arc that has like a nice sort of like anticipation to it, right? Because we're delaying that arc. How do we get that to read well for the next one? Because we have a really good follow through here that goes sort of forward, right? That's a really good follow through. So now it's ahead of him. So how do we get the sword to work again? Because right here in this one, I would say, as much as cool as I like this choreo piece, I think the arc here could be a little bit cleaner, where we have, you know, something that feels just as strong as the first one. This one feels sort of like a secondary attack because it's leading, right? You see how it's leading? What I mean by that is like there's sort of like this Nike check mark here, right? What that means is that like, because even though this is the beginning of the swing, you're already seeing that Nike check mark when in reality, you shouldn't be seeing it to the end. So this is here. This, I'm just going to apply the same notes. I think generally speaking, like this one is pretty good, but I will say, Taro, we're doing that thing again. Taro, we're doing that thing again. Why is it pointing upwards? Tara, why is it pointing upwards? It's pointing downwards. We got that. This is just a camera. This is a camera view thing, right? It's a camera view thing, but it's kind of hard to like keep this in mind in 3D. But like, look, what, Tara, what? Yeah. Just keep that consistent. All we have to do is a small change. That's it, right there. You do that, it'll feel great, but it's currently interrupting the momentum. So check this out. Look how good this feels. Actually, you know what? Let's combine that with another note just to have that anticipation be again a bit delayed. Boom. Look how good that feels, right? That feels a lot better. So just got to keep these camera view orientations consistent for these arcs. It'll help a lot. Taro, this is a great moment. I really like this shot, but like, tell me there's a reason why his gun is more effective as a blunt object. Yeah, just tell me. I'm just curious. Like, is that a thing that I'm missing? Like, is it like his ultimate or something, where he like throws his gun at the enemy and it explodes? All right, so he throws his gun as a bomb apparently, and then he still gets hit a little bit, but he's fine. Okay, fair enough. This right here, oh yes, this right here, I love that arc. Those shapes right there. That's a really good shape. That's just fantastic. Really good. So that's one of the reasons why I like this shot so much. I do kind of wish like the damage he takes here is a little bit more obvious, so that like it follows through with the long pan. That would be good. Did Red lose his arm? Oh, wait a minute. Did he? Oh, he did. Oh, you're right. Okay, I wish that was a little more clear. That was a little hard to see. I think that's something that I would probably say should be particles. Like something that like the debris should be visible. You know what I mean? Just like some sort of debris effects would be good. So bam, you know, like, oh, my arm blew up into little tiny pieces. That would be a lot more helpful in getting that to read, because the explosion covers his silhouette for a bit. It's hard to notice that it's disappearing. Have the arm fly into screen. That'd be a bit much, but you could. The momentum is not quite right for it though. Yeah, arcs are a big one here because we have a lot of sword animations. And the sword animations are additionally very well emphasized with mesh trails. And so the arcs get drawn and the arcs get emphasized visually. So it's important to make sure that you sort of be very, very mindful of them when you're animating. And most of them look really good. These are really small nitpicks, but it's like, I think these small things can really improve sort of the look and feel of the animation by quite a bit. So it's my personal opinion. That's really cool. Now let's watch it again with the annotations as well. So it's a little hard to see, but you can kind of see like there's certain things that are being added that I think can help the readability of certain poses and stuff. Yeah. I love that. I love the laser jump possibilities. I think that'd be really cool because the laser jump would feel really, really nice with those foreshortened lasers. And then, yeah, everything else feels really good. I do also really, really like this pose. As a recommendation, I think this pose right here will make a big difference. I think like this one will help. It's the one that sticks out the most to me. So I do recommend that. I don't know, maybe hope you guys learned something. I don't know. But yeah, man, that was cool.